So,
Let me just click this button here, make sure the camera doesn't shake too much. There we go, cool.
and welcome to this episode of the Selling Through Partnering Skills podcast. This episode is going to be a little bit different. Rather than go through our normal format, I want to go a slightly different route because I'm joined by Will Aitken, who is a sales evangelist at SalesFeed. Hi, Will.
G'day, Fred. Thank you so much for having me on.
So, obvious first question. What's a sales evangelist?
Good question. I'm still trying to figure that part out myself, to be honest. I've only been doing it for 3 weeks, but I think the short answer is this is kind of a new role that we're seeing a lot around now that social media is becoming a real thing and people are following people more than brands. A lot of companies are bringing on folks who they call sales evangelists to kind of speak for the brand online, create content, and kind of do some honor to the sales profession. Normally, they're sales tech companies who have that salesperson audience.
Yeah, and so I was joking a little bit because I get it that it's about doing honor to the sales profession and sort of giving good practice and having a bit of fun as well. I think that's an important thing. So, okay, and again, you said it's really new, and this is why I thought I want Will to come on and speak about this now because it is new to you, and it's your journey that's got you here that I think is really interesting. Can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, for sure. So by trade, by profession, my career so far, I've been a salesperson for close to 6 years now. I've done a bit of boiler room sales, selling insurance, working for real estate agents, more moving into the tech space where a lot of those account executive folks are now. And then this year really is probably when it started. While I was working as an account executive for a company called Proposify, I just started posting on social media a lot, and mostly LinkedIn, but also TikTok, which is a relatively new platform. And I started to see some real extreme benefits from my posting on social media affecting my sales performance. So I let that cascade, and I could probably speak some more to that part. But after a while, I got a lot more interest from a lot of recruiters, and eventually someone tapped me on the shoulder and said, "Hey, Will, do you want to be a sales evangelist?" At which point I asked the same question that you just did. What is that?
And so the recruiters were recruiting for sales roles, so like similar, like for like. Yeah.
Yeah. So mostly other account executive roles for other tech companies.
But it wasn't until this opportunities for sales evangelism came on, you thought, oh, hello, sounds interesting.
Well, yeah, it's the classic. If you're doing well at sales, then you don't want. Why would you jump to a new sales role if you're already crushing it in a sales role, which I was. So none of them really even spiked my curiosity until I heard this role, which was completely unique to anything I'd ever heard before.
And was it pitched to you? I mean, you sort of said it doing honor to the sales profession. Was that how it was said, or is that if you put that in as part of your rider, your
I did that. That's
conditions
me.
to employ?
That's Will Aitken there. That line. No, not really. I was reached out to by now my boss, Tyler Lassard from Vidyard. And he started this new venture, the sales media company. He reached out and said, "Hey, Will, I love your content. I'm looking for someone with your exact background, someone who's sold, someone who knows what they're talking about when it comes to sales, someone who's also got their own following. They can help bring over to this new media brand that we're doing as well." So that's how it was pitched to me. And because it sounded so different, I was like, well, I've got to at least hear more about that. And the more I heard about it, the more interesting it became.
And Tyler totally gets content. I mean, he's been on this podcast and I use it and I point people to it saying, look, I can tell you the basics, but look, go and listen to this one. The bloke who's written the book has given us 45 minutes about why it works and how it works. But now you're going to better
it. Yeah. Well, right. When Tyler reached out to you to talk about your content, you must be doing something right.
Seriously, no, I mean, that's a massive compliment. If he's talking to you about, I like your stuff and I want you to come work with me, it's like, whoa, yeah, I ought to have the conversation, like you say. Okay, so again, I've got to kind of frame all the questions. They're always, it's 3 weeks in, but I don't know, before we go forward, let's just go backward a little bit. The stuff that you were doing when you were at Proposify, the content you were producing, can you give us a bit more detail around that and sort of what you're doing and why it worked?
Yeah. I couldn't. Everything feels like it's been a big accident so far. So I couldn't tell you exactly why it worked, but I just kept doing things that seemed to be working. But it was April of this year, so I really haven't been doing that for this long at all. It's only been like 6 months, and I just put a LinkedIn post out there, and it got 30 likes. And then one of my clients who I was talking to on a demo was like, "Hey, Will, I saw your post about this." And I thought that was a hot take, but I could totally agree with you. And then something kind of clicked in my mind, like, this guy's come to this conversation with a little bit extra something than where we left off our last conversation. I've managed to somehow build a relationship with this guy when I haven't even been there. So then I thought, okay, well, that's one angle to this. And I just started posting more, and really it was for fun. And I thought it doesn't matter if it doesn't do well. It's kind of like a hobby at that point. So I'd finish work, pull out my phone, create a couple of videos, write a couple of posts, and then I put them out there. And I said, as long as I'm enjoying it, it doesn't matter what happens with this content, as long as it's not offending anyone, right? So I just kept doing that and enjoying it, and it cascaded, and the post kept doing really well, and I kept seeing results like that I mentioned on the calls. But more things started happening. Like, people started reaching out to me on LinkedIn saying, "Hey, Will, saw your post. It's funny, we've actually been looking for a proposal software," which is what I was selling. "Can we grab a demo with you?" And I was like, people are asking me for demos. I normally have to beg for these things. I have to get on the phone and call for 3 hours to get one conversation. This person just reached out to me. So seeing a lot of that. Even then, towards the end there, people were requesting demos from the website, and on the little, form that companies make you fill out if you want a demo, they'd write, "We want Will as our sales rep." And I was like, wasn't keeping the other salespeople happy, but I was like, wow. And that was all just from putting funny, sometimes low effort, sometimes high effort content out there pretty much every day.
So let me just capture some of the stuff you said there. There's a really important bit there, which you were finding that you were picking up a conversation with a little bit extra than where you left it because of the stuff you were doing in between.
Exactly.
And that was a bit of an aha moment. And then you said, well, I'm enjoying this. It's quite good fun. And things started to happen. And then the last thing you said there, you talk about low effort and high effort stuff. So some of this stuff, you're moving sales on, people are coming to you. We want Will for low effort things. So again, are you able to tell us what low effort stuff is? Because we don't want to put too much effort into this stuff. Tell us what these things are.
Well, sometimes when you think about content, it can seem really intimidating because it's like, oh, I have to go and create this thing, and I have no idea how to write, and I have no idea how to create video. Maybe it doesn't have to be the video side of things. A lot of my written posts perform really well as well. But when you look at it, you think, oh, this must have taken you hours to film. But it really was a case of pulling out my phone, recording 6 short clips, clipping them together in an app, TikTok typically, and then adding some captions, and it's done in 20 minutes. So when I say low effort, I mean, it just didn't take much effort to produce. And there were some things where I tried to do a little bit more, but I found, in fact, the more effort I put into things, the less well they did. It was the stuff that was really raw, authentic, off the cuff that was bringing the most people to me.
Well, again, I need to rewind some of this. There's so much stuff going on here. So 20 minutes, you're producing something which loads and loads of people are going to see. And that's a shorter time than a phone call that is probably only going to be talking to one person. Yeah. It's having the effect because of what you're doing is resonating. But then you just said something else there. The stuff that's resonated most with people was where it was kind of a bit more raw, where it was a bit more kind of emotional. How do you mean by that? I think I know, but if you can give us an example.
It's kind of like the more hard you try to be funny, the less, like, when someone's trying really hard, you can tell. Whereas the stuff, the way I think about it is like, when you sit there and really try and make something good, sometimes it just doesn't come out how you want it. But if you just create lots and don't care about the outcome as much, then you can pick the best and think, okay, that was actually really good, and then I can put that out there. So it's kind of like quantity over quality almost, but not really, because some quality does come from quantity. And a lot of this was being inspired by being a seller every day, because I get off the phone with someone and they break up with me and they tell me, "Hey, Will, thanks so much for your time. You've been really helpful during the sales process, but we're not moving forward." And I'm like, whoa, this happens all the time when people are really nice to you, when they're like they're trying to let you down softly. that could be a funny piece of content. So then I just go and create that and put it out there, and boom, it's got like 200 likes for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But because it's so relatable, because it came from real life experience.
So it's relatable is an important part, because in that at that time you're a seller talking to other sellers, so you know your audience. That's why they're getting it. You're just going, actually, this just happened to me. It's going to happen to everyone else that I'm trying to talk to. Yeah.
And my target audience at the time, the people I was selling to, who buy proposal software, are salespeople as well.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
So it's very easy to create content that attracts those people. I have spoken to people who sell to HR people. Is it as easy to do it with them? I think so, but you need to take a different angle on it.
But this is about knowing your audience anyway. As a salesperson, you would have to do that. If you're sort of rocking up and going, I'm going to sell to these people, I don't know anything about them, don't know what their challenges are, I don't know what they think about. Well, you're going to be struggling full stop, whether you're talking about content, you're talking about a phone call, you're going to sit in a meeting with them. Either way, you're stuffed.
Exactly.
So if that's the sort of the lower effort, the higher effort stuff, what does that look like?
It's a lot of what I'm doing now, which is because now I'm representing a brand. For my content is going to a brand, so I still do my personal stuff. I should say stuff. I'm still doing my personal videos, but I'm also working on high production, documentary style, explainer series. That's probably a bit more high production. But before I was doing this, when I say the high effort stuff, I mean, like, I didn't record it in portrait selfie mode. I went onto a computer and edited it and tried to clip it together and did tons of edits and had backing tracks, everything like that. That stuff was the stuff that wasn't resonating almost.
Wow.
Because I was spending so much time on it as well, and the ROI in a way wasn't there when you compare it to a 20-minute selfie video where I talk about something that just happened.
And I wonder if that's because people feel it's overproduced and feel it's a kind of marketing department that got their fingerprints all over it, as opposed to it's a bloke with a phone who's saying something, and that's what I want to speak to, the bloke with the phone who's saying something, because that's like me. He's like me.
Exactly.
Yeah. Interesting stuff. And if I got it right, so when you're doing the sort of 6 clips, you then edit it together, but you're using TikTok as the app, the editing app, to put it all together. And again, if I think I've seen your stuff right, it's when it's in LinkedIn, it's kind of got a little TikTok watermark. So you're editing in that, it's going on TikTok anyway. Someone sees it there, happy days. But it's going into LinkedIn, probably where more folks see it. So you're getting 2 for the price of 1 anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I've got what happens is this. I produce loads of stuff on TikTok. I probably post 4 times as much on TikTok than I do to LinkedIn. But the one out of those 4 videos which I think is really good is the one that gets to LinkedIn, because that's where my audience is. On TikTok, it's a lot of people between the age of 10 and 25. But let's be honest, there are less decision makers in that demographic. And often it's funny because the stuff that does the worst on TikTok, because it's super relevant, relatable for an account executive or a sales manager, because no one gets it on TikTok. That is the stuff that does best on LinkedIn, because that's where that audience is. So
you're kind of paying TikTok with a little bit of the fun stuff to take the one using basically their editing to whack it into LinkedIn, and that's you I'd say more serious, but the more targeted to that group.
For sure. I have a bigger following on TikTok than LinkedIn, though. I've got almost 20,000 followers on there, but they're all very junior level people like myself who aren't not a valuable audience. They will be one day. I think that's a longer game. Not that I have a plan or anything, but like one day they'll probably be like, my peers who'll be like, yeah, I know Will. I followed him 10 years ago on TikTok. But
yeah,
like there's much more value in the people who engage in my stuff on LinkedIn, because they are the decision makers. They are the people who I want to be in conversations with.
So this